The goal of this podcast is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every single week by sharing the stories and advice of those rocking it on the other side. You got to follow us on LinkedIn because we also are helping you out by posting daily news videos in 60 seconds or less. All the headlines, a little synthesis there, and it's really good for you to break in and thrive in this industry. Follow us at Breaking Entering Media if you aren't already. And in this very special episode, you are going to learn from David Littlejohn. David Littlejohn has been a dream guest on the show since I started it. He is the founder and chief creative officer of Humanaut, which is an independent creative ad agency based in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And we'll talk about why Chattanooga and all about him, but really his love for creativity, curiosity, and wonder, shaped by his background. He's a magician. He does a card trick on the show real quick, just a little sleight of hand action. Blew my mind. Like, who's that one guy? David Blaine. You got to check this out on YouTube if you're listening. Go hop over there to make sure you come back. But his background in magic, science, and stand-up comedy, his influences, and how his approach to advertising is shaped by all these damn things. He explains how Humanaut focuses on working with better-for-you brands, helping purpose-driven companies stand out in the crowded market. And he highlights the challenge of creating high-impact work for brands with smaller budgets, emphasizing the importance of storytelling, humor, and emotional resonance to compete with industry giants. And he also talks about their agency model, where they handle production in-house, allowing them to bring ideas to life without those traditional constraints. One of the best episodes I've ever recorded. So I'm really pumped for you all. This guy knows his stuff. And of course, you know, a lot of our guests, if they're this special, they're starting agencies, they're successful starting brands like Liquid Death, a lot of the time, it could be traced back to a very special agency in history, Crispin Porter and Bogusky. If you've been following the show, I always nerd out when somebody has worked at that shop. They go on to do amazing things. So we get a little glimpse at what it was like David's time working at Crispin Porter Bogusky. Real quick, he also talks about advertising for peanuts, which is his blog that he started when he was just breaking in. It just kind of resonates with my story. So you're going to love this guy. He's an ad nerd, and I love him for that. So you're going to want to connect with David, and he explains how you can't do that with him necessarily, but he gives a better email at the end of the episode. If you like what you hear, please give this episode 5 stars on Apple, on Spotify too. Follow us on YouTube and LinkedIn. Just engage with us so we can continue to get amazing guests like David Littlejohn. Now, on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, and as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right. David Littlejohn, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, man. It's good to be here. It's good to see you.
Heck yeah, I'm pumped. I've been trying to get you on the show for a while now, so it's a dream come true. Wow. I'm pumped for this. We're here to talk about you, Humanaut, because you're the founder, CCO over there. In what town? Tell the people, David, where you guys are based.
Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Boom.
Hotbed of creativity and nature. A lot of good things happening here.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about Humanaut, why it's in Chattanooga, what the agency's all about, and then we get into the good stuff, good stories, advice, biggest mistakes, best advice you've ever received, all that fun stuff for the next generation. How does that sound, David?
This sounds fun, man. Let's I don't know how we're going to keep it short, but we'll try.
Well, we can go as long as we want. There's no rules here. So, first off, like outside of advertising, like who is David? Like, what do you like to do? Like what outside of work when you're trying to think of when you hit that creative block, what do you do to solve that?
Great question, man. advertising's a funny place to land, because I would say that like my favorite thing is to have my mind blown. I love ideas. I love anything that just gives you that feeling of just like, wow, right? And I've been chasing that, since I was a kid, really. And it takes you all over the place. Anything that's going to blow your mind. So I love magic. I'm a magician, sleight of hand magician. And I love like TED Talks. I love science. I love, cosmos, anything that just inspires wonder. And I'm just really curious. And so it's all sorts of things. And then also just nature. I love, running, being outside, and just trying to play as much as I can and to make stuff. So it's, Humanaut's a great catch-all for just sort of all the weird, fun stuff I'm into. But I think you got to stay curious and try to have fun as much as you can.
Do you think the wonder, like, is it for you, or do you like to like instill that and like evoke that in an audience? Because I love to like kind of people please and like put on a show and stuff like that. I was in theater and stuff. Like, where does this fall for you?
I think it starts with just I'm curious. I'm exploring. I'm like trying to find new rabbit holes and subcultures, and just my mind just keeps kind of wanting to learn, wanting to consume and have new experiences. And then once you get out there, you get out into sort of the depths of places you don't feel like many people have gone. You're like, I got to tell you about this stuff. I got to show this to you. And so that's one of my favorite things about magic is it's this way where you can just give somebody that feeling just sitting at the table with them, just whether it's a deck of cards or something. And you can see them have that moment where their mind's a bit blown. So it is fun once you go discover those things. You really do. You want to give that feeling to other people. And I think a lot of the video work I do is similar in trying to create that feeling, that surprise, that I'm a big student and fan of stand-up comedy. I've gotten on stage a good bit, which is incredibly difficult for anyone who's done stand-up. But it's just another chance to learn and try that out.
Interesting. This sounds like you'd be a great strategist, like super curious. Like that's like, if I were to guess, like if you were talking to me as a student right now, I would probably recommend you to strategy. So.
Well, I'm a very strategic creative, and I think the best creative work is very strategic and very logical in many ways. So yeah, I'll take the compliment.
Are you do you have a deck of cards by you right now? Do you have like, I'm just curious. I want to know what your desk looks like. Like what's in your desk, like little trinkets of some sort. Like I'm sure it's
this is embarrassing. I do have a deck of cards that I keep with me all the time, pretty much to just like, I call it like it's like a productive fidget spinner, because I can kind of sit here and just mess with these, even if I'm on a call. And yeah, it's just a fun, I shouldn't really be, if I want to just, put something up there and bring it back out, like.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Everybody that's listening to this, we have a YouTube account that's full video that they should be watching. Yeah. Anything else? Any other quick ones you could do?
I don't know. Sometimes these don't work, but if I want to like take a, just put that.
Oh my gosh.
Right over there. Right.
I'm impressed. That's fun. We've never done that in 5 years, 350 episodes. So
there we go.
Maybe 400 now. So that's a first, David. Thank you for that. So then this idea of like, I don't know, magic and creativity and wonder and being curious, how does that ethos trickle into Humanaut? Like, because obviously you're the founder, you had an idea. Mm-hmm. What was it born? What was this agency born out of, and where is it at today?
Great question. So, yeah, some people will say like, why did you start an agency? And the truth was, at the time, and this was, Humanaut's about to have our 12th year anniversary, which is
Damn.
crazy to me. I know. I I just there wasn't another agency I wanted to go to,
Hmm.
and so I'd left Crispin Porter Bogusky, which was an incredibly inspiring experience, and you know I really kind of at the time I was even considering going into a different field. I love games and game design. I was going to maybe try to go into become a game designer, but I was very open and I was also very inspired by the startup world. And when I was coming up, growing up, there weren't really startups, right? It was like the .com era. It was like pets.com was like a startup. And I'm like, but then suddenly the App Store came out and all these apps were everywhere. And, again, as someone who just was chasing creativity, chasing the very best ideas I could possibly find, I like to say that there was a time when advertising was putting out the very best mind-blowing ideas. It was the most creative industry. I always talk about how, especially the early days of the internet, we were pioneering all sorts of new stuff. And I like to tell people how like the Matrix bullet time, you know, visual effects, like we're first in a Gap commercial. Like advertising was a place where you could experiment and play and test all this really fun stuff. Building all sorts of microsites and things online. And that was really like why I was in the industry. It was like, there's no more, if I want to, chase the biggest ideas that are just consistently coming out, it was in this field. It's shifted though. At one point I felt like the biggest ideas were coming out of garages, startups and kids with building apps. And I actually kind of left advertising for a little bit to pursue that startup world. And I found myself though, basically having really great communication and branding and design skills that didn't exist in that startup community. So even though I thought I'd become an entrepreneur and have my own company or app, I found myself consulting like lots of different small baby brands. And, something happened to me. I went from the really big ad agency world working on huge brands like Domino's and Volkswagen and Best Buy. And it was amazing and working with big directors to make, big commercials. But when I got into the startup world, something changed in me where I realized like, wow, this really matters. Like we're solving a real problem. Every decision we're making has a huge impact on the company and the future of the business. And that really changed me because then I was like, wow, if I can do what I love, which is communicating and, creating messages and explaining things, but I can do that for a product that actually matters, that the world needs, that is solving a problem. Wow, that was that changed it for me. I loved my job even more, and I thought my work was better. So Humanaut basically kind of came out of that exploration of like, where do I put my creative skills? And I realized what I really want to do is work for brands that are making the world a better place. And so that really was the beginning of Humanaut. And essentially, Humanaut we're the world's top better brand. We're the world's top agency for better for you brands. If you have a business, a company that's truly trying to fix things, trying to make something better, trying to make it healthier, trying to make it less toxic or destructive to the planet, those brands have a very hard time getting the world out, getting their message out. And we have this problem where like the very biggest brands in the world are usually not making things better. They're making things worse. And then the little guys, no one knows about them. Mm-hmm. And so I just felt like it's an injustice that the best brands for the world often have the worst marketing. And so I've kind of dedicated the last 10 plus years to making sure that if you're a really good company and you have a really good product, you deserve the best advertising and marketing in the world. Mm-hmm. And so, we're a small agency, but that's our roster is, I can say like the very best brands in the world. We have, it's Organic Valley, a cooperative of organic farmers. It's Garden of Life, organic and whole food supplements, and it's this whole, we do a lot of work with Liquid Death. Liquid Death was a, born out of Humanaut in some ways, with Mike Cesario, who worked at Humanaut, and Andy Pearson worked at Humanaut. And there's a similar ethos of, water is the best thing you should be drinking. It's the healthiest beverage.
Yep.
And yet it was the lamest. And so how do you make water the coolest? And I love that Liquid Death is really succeeded, showing that, like, if you make a good product and you make it cool, people will buy it. And my mentor and friend Alex Bogusky has this phrase, a quote that inspired me a lot, which was, if saving the world isn't fun, who's going to do it? And a lot of these better for you brands struggled for a long time because they were just nice, and they were kind of just wholesome, and they were quiet. And the work we've done with Organic Valley and what you see with Liquid Death is like, no. The good things need to be really fun. They need to be just as fun as Skittles and, Monster Energy. It's like, that's how we need to take the really good companies, the better for you brands. They need to be just as fun as the other stuff. Otherwise, why is a normal person or a Walmart shopper going to choose it? So I'm here to make things that are good for you really fun. And
I love it.
That's our mission. That's what we do. Our mission is to get good things inside people's brains.
The main argument is with these smaller companies that have that purpose-driven effort, they don't have the budgets to compete.
No.
You don't buy that. You don't care, I'm assuming.
Well, so here I say that we work on the world's hardest marketing problems, because it's not just that they don't have a big budget. The smaller brands, they have low awareness. No one's ever heard of them. They also are trying to disrupt or grow a category. So sometimes the category doesn't exist, or people don't know much about it. They have a lot of good stuff to talk about. And something that makes marketing really bad is talking a lot. Coca-Cola doesn't need to tell you what's in their product. They don't spend that time doing that. But a better for you brand's like, well, for instance, probiotics for Garden of Life. It's like, what are our probiotics? How do they work? What are they doing? Like, you have to say all this stuff, and it's boring. And then they have less money. And you have to also change a behavior. Instead of just keeping people buying the thing they're buying, you have to get them to buy something they never bought. So there is so many things you have to do with less money. And so we just like to say, like, our work has to work really hard. It has to educate, it has to inform you, but it has to be emotional. And, it has to be playful, it has to be fun. And so I think the magic of Humanaut's work is we find a way of informing you about something really good, but we're going to make it emotional, fun, playful. And that is, I'll just say, it's really hard to do, but I like a challenge. So I guess I've just chosen to do it the hard way. And the only other thing I'll mention that makes it hard is that Humanaut's also a production company. So we do all of our own video production in-house. So all the videos you see, we've made. I've got a studio here I could, show you. It's like 6,000 square foot film studio where we build our sets, and we shoot here, we edit here, we do it all. It's also the most fun way to do it. So I'm lucky that, like, we've chosen something that's challenging, but it's really rewarding. It's really fun. We've got the most amazing people, and you can sleep really well at night because everything you've worked on. I always say, like, in the early days, we wouldn't work on it. And still now it's like, if we can't recommend it to our mom or give it to our kids, I don't want to work on it.
That's a great filter.
Yeah.
That is a great filter. You might be declining a lot of money.
Well, they say it's like a principle isn't a principle until it costs you money. And so it's like, but I don't know, money's boring. Like, it's just this like thing that is always the same, but to impact things, to change things, to grow things is exciting. So I feel just very lucky I've gotten to help grow and even have many of those brands acquired from this sort of baby brand to something that's,
nice.
Out around the whole world now.
Damn. I love it. Tell me about why Chattanooga. Tell me about the squad. Tell me about like the office. Give me the rundown. What it's
Yeah.
like to work there.
Yeah, in the early days, I think people thought maybe I was a little crazy, and I wondered if I was a little crazy because it's not a strategic, great business decision to start an agency in Chattanooga, Tennessee,
Pre-pandemic.
12 years ago, right?
Yeah.
No, we don't have any clients here. And there's not a huge talent pool or school that's training marketers. And so, really, I just loved this place. I moved here when I was in high school. I had family here. I had some friends here, and I had gone and worked, like Chicago and Boulder and California, and New York. But I loved it here. And, I also I enjoyed that I wasn't very distracted here. I felt like I could focus on what I really wanted to do. And I found that when you go into these bigger markets, there's just a lot of talk and a lot of people, do you see what they did? Do you see what they did? And it's competitive. And so, being in Chattanooga gave me a lot of focus. Let me just stay the course of what I wanted to do. It also forced us to start a production company because I didn't want to travel a bunch. I didn't want to have to keep leaving to go shoot a commercial. So we had to figure out how to do that here. And then most of the Humanaut team has never worked in advertising. We have a lot of people who've just come up. We also have people who've been here a really long time. So, if you're really talented, you live in Chattanooga, you work at Humanaut, there's not a lot of other great creative agencies to go to.
Right.
There are some really great people doing great things here, but not at the caliber that we're doing them. And so that means that people stay for a long time. And so like my executive creative director, Bethany Maxfield, she's been going on her 9th year.
Incredible.
I've got, my chief creative officer has been with me from the very beginning with Save the Bros as the director of a lot of the early Humanaut work. Our executive producer has been here, 9 years. So I have this team that's, and then a lot of the normal crew has been here 4 and 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. So we built a lot of, I just think that there's this revolving door that has happened on the agency side and the client side. And so it's just, everyone's just swapped people. And it means that there isn't a lot of culture and process that's unique anywhere. And I think we have a very unique process that's really built around identifying human truths, real emotions and injustices. And my goal is to help brands become a real life character in a real story, which is culture. And we have a process to do that. But it's a lot of touchy feely stuff. It's a lot of like, what do you really feel? One thing I think we're really good at is calling bullshit on marketers' briefs and strategies. So a lot of times, I like to say like brands typically, they think about themselves within the category and they say, what do we want to tell people about us? What is unique about us that we want to make sure people know? And I usually hear the thing that they want to tell about themselves. And I'm like, that's horribly boring. Mm-hmm. Nobody is going to care about that. And what people forget is that what most advertising is, sorry to be crass, is it's spending a lot of money to get an irrelevant idea into your head. You don't care about this. You're not thinking about it. You're not interested in it, but they pay money for it to wear in so that you know about it. We don't have that luxury. We don't have the money to wear something in with 16 to 23 exposures. Mm-hmm. We have a limited time with the customer. And so what we say is like, we have to find something that actually is interesting, is actually relevant to people in their lives. And so we really start with like, okay, that's nice to hear what you think you want to say. Why don't we go over here and talk to these people and figure out like, what could you say that's actually interesting? Mm-hmm. Those are very different things. So we're trying to create relevance, cultural relevance. We want you to be not just like, oh, we're one of the better ones in the category because it's a little bit easier, a little bit more affordable. It's like, these are very bad stories. And I always tell our clients, A, you're competing with the whole internet every day to get inside someone's brain. And B, you need to be telling an Avengers level movie story. Like mm-hmm. We're talking to Walmart, Costco, Target shoppers, the mainstream, which is another benefit of being in Chattanooga, is you got to grow in middle America. You got to grow for the masses. And most people are just very busy. They got a lot going on. Their mom is sick. Their kids are like, wild and crazy, and you're stressed. And somehow your product is going to be something that they care about. The odds of that are very low unless you figure out, why do you actually matter? Why do you need to exist? Why are you even here? Why are you wasting people's time? Like, so we try to find products that actually matter. They deserve to exist and need to exist. Mm-hmm. And then we make sure we explain and tell a story that's so compelling that people are like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you exist. I know I exist, and I'm ready to try you, which is all we need to do is get you to try it.
I love it. I love it. It takes bravery for those clients, right? If you're
yes and no. I mean, what I say, right, is like the biggest risk today with so many things out there, the biggest risk you can possibly take is to be invisible, or to be nice, or to be just to make some ads, right? And that's what most people are doing because they're scared and they're playing it safe. So logically speaking, the very best thing you could do is do whatever you can to stand out and have people talk about you, even if people are 20 to 30% of those people are mad. Like, that's the equation that would actually get you to be raise awareness. Because I think about it this way, it's like, all I need for a better for you brand is, the name. So I've heard about you. That's hard. And I was interested enough to try you. Well, it's a low bar, but it's very hard to do. And so I'm just like, getting people mad at you would be the best thing you could do. If you want people to, know your name, like, do you want people to know your name? Well, you need to do something that's going to get people and I think Liquid Death's one of the best examples we have of that. I always tell people, Whole Foods moms love Liquid Death. It is not this extreme, crazy product. It's water. It's a cool water. And I have a whole formula for how you can create that, like, overcorrection, as I call it. My definition of a brand is a delightful overcorrection of an injustice that fulfills an emotional need. And so, Liquid Death's a great example of, there's an injustice. Water is lame. Let's do the overcorrection. So now it's delightful overcorrection. It's playful overcorrection to be ridiculously cool, heavy metal, like tattoos, piercing. That's actually not the customer. The customer is just normal person, right? But because you you took a lame thing and you made it really cool, and you did it in a fun, playful way, I'm on board. I want to try it. I like it. It's, at the end of the day, it's just water, right? So that's just some of the math that we use. And I'm happy that, some of that math and DNA exists over there.
But some of this, I feel like, can reposition the whole product, like the whole business.
Yes.
And that's probably where you want to get at, is like, you're identifying those brands that have that potential and that blueprint. Yes. But also, you might, if you have a really good relationship, they might actually take some business decisions from you all too, not just advertising.
Absolutely. So I love that you pointed out, because what I'm telling everybody right now is, like, whether you're starting a business from scratch or you have a big brand, people used to have equity in their product. It was hard to have a quality product, to have a good brand, and to get it on shelf. That was very hard to do. Mm-hmm. So if you did that better than your competitors, you would win and you were unstoppable. Now it's very easy to get a product. It's very easy to everyone has a great brand. It's not hard to have, like, AI will make you a great brand, right? So, and then it's getting much easier to either get on shelf or direct to consumer. Okay, so, and anyone can copy your product within 6 months. Okay, so product equity's gone away. What's left? And what does culture thrive on? Stories. And now I like to say, like, the problem is there are too many things. And if there are too many things, the things that win are the things you know about. So knowing about you now has this incredible equity. Well, what are the things we know about? We know about good stories. Okay, so what do we need to be doing for businesses and brands? Story equity. What is story equity? It's like, I have a story and I'm consistent with that story. And every time I show up, I tell that story, no matter what. And so the days of just like, oh, we have this brand and then we do these campaigns, right? Now, also what's happening is the revolving door of CMOs means no one is building equity in the story of the brand anymore. We've eroded all brand stories to trends and to, just like one-off campaigns. Every CMO try to come in and reinvent. And so what Humanaut's working on right now is like, what we need is you need a brand story platform. You need a story that's going to be really resonant in culture. And then you need to be telling that story at every single customer touch point. And to your point, guess what? Your product is your story. And so guess what? If your product is your story, you can do your product outside of your product. Your product is the least interesting thing about you. Liquid Death's water is the least interesting thing about Liquid Death. Like, it's the things that they're doing, the collaborations they're doing. And that is their product, because their product is their story, and their story is famous, and that's why they're worth a lot. And so we're really helping all brands now, all the brands we work with, say, this is the playbook. You need to invest in a consistent story. And it's just gotten much harder for CMOs and brand managers because there are way more customer touch points. I think all of us watch Mad Men and we're like, no wonder you took a nap on the couch, because you just had to do your TV spot, your radio, and your print and billboard, and you were done. Today, any creative working now is like, there's the long form, the 30, the 15s, the 6s, the social, the static, the emails, the press. It's like, and we've lost a framework as marketers for how to run that anymore. And you got 5 agencies and little teams all trying to do it. And everyone's just going like, well, there was a great trend on this today. Oh, and did you see this? This is happening. Oh, and you have a brand manager sitting there going like, I've got a little wheel at a brand house that some strategy shop gave me, and my agency's telling me to do this, and their head's about to explode. And it's like, guys, storytelling is simple. You have to have an injustice you're fighting. You have to have a reason you're existing, and you need to have a consistent tone and voice. And then you just keep showing up and you just be that. And it actually makes it much simpler. And so, and to your point, lastly, I'll just say, yes, you'll become a different kind of business when you commit to your story, and it will change your product innovation pipeline. It'll change everything you do. And it'll allow you to have a really long runway, because you've invested in your story, and now your product just has to keep delivering on the story, and you can evolve however you need to. As long as the story is known, you will have equity. Your company will be valuable, and you'll be promoted. You'll do well.
I love it. Where did you? I want to know the story of like how you broke into this industry. What was the first job, and like to get an understanding of how you know all this stuff today?
Yeah. So we talked about how I went to Columbia College Chicago. So I'm a weirdo in that I decided to go into advertising as like a 16-year-old in high school. That gave me a big head start, because I didn't even know it was an industry. All I knew was I was really good at a lot of stuff in high school, but not the best at any of it by far.
Oh, perfect.
And I was nervous. I'm like, how am I going to pick one thing? And B, like, and I was kind of like, I was like, I'm not going to, I like music. I'm not going to be like a musician. And I like making little films, but like film director, maybe, but I started seeing these ads, and I was just like, someone must make these. And most of them are bad, but like a couple of them are really good. Like, what is this? And then I'm like, oh, there's this industry called advertising, and there's this thing called copywriting, and this thing called art direction. And I always say, like, the best, like, picking a thing as a young person just gives you such an advantage. If you're sitting out there going like, well, I just don't know. I don't know. It's like, so I was lucky. I was like, I'm picking advertising. Like, and
it's the best.
It's like, I knew the books, I read the blogs, I could go on the informational interviews. Oh, a friend's cousin works in advertising. Why don't you go talk to him? Mm-hmm. So I started at that point. I went to Columbia College Chicago. Why? Because they had a good marketing program taught by professionals, and it was an affordable school. And Chicago was a pretty good ad town. It wasn't the best ad town at the time, but it was a good ad town. Yeah. And so that just gave me my path. And then I got an internship at a little agency outside of Chicago called Maddox Douglas. I was going to maybe have to go to portfolio school, but if the internship turned into a job, I was going to stay the course.
Sure.
Turn into a job. And then I found myself at a small agency with some really cool opportunities as one of the few writers. And I got to work on old style beer, which is kind of like Pabst Blue Ribbon for Chicago, and like a sponsor of the Cubs. And the next thing I know, I've got like beer billboards and ads in the Onion in Chicago. And I'm doing radio spots. And of course, to be that young, but to have such a fun at bat was really cool. But I'll tell you the thing, and this is going to be some of my advice coming up, is the thing that really helped my career the most is I started this blog way back in the day called Advertising for Peanuts. And this was a blog. This was the early days. You had to actually code a little bit back then to create a blog on Blogger or whatever, Blogspot. But all I did was every day I sat down in the morning before work and I spent an hour going through the whole internet of all the blogs back then to see the work that was getting posted from around the world. And I chose the very thing I liked the most that day, whether it was a print ad, usually print ad, sometimes a video, and I write a little paragraph about why I liked it. And this blog started to kind of catch on, eventually. I just did it. And eventually I had 2,000 people every day coming to Advertising for Peanuts. And I was like a 22, 23-year-old, kid with not much experience, but I guess I had taste. And, it's funny, that blog ended up getting me fired from that job because I posted some stuff I shouldn't have posted about something that the company was working on. I kind of I had my first, what do you call it? Breaking story that then all the other blogs picked up. So I was pumped, but it was that wasn't ready to be talked about.
Oh, you leaked it. You're a PR person's nightmare over there.
Yeah. And so
that's funny.
I got fired, but then that blog got me hired at Foot Cone and Belding because they had this emerging digital department. They're there's this new digital stuff and you seem to kind of know it. So I got to be this hybrid creative at Foot Cone and Belding, which back then was super fun because I'll tell you how old I am for all your we were talking to Facebook and MySpace, trying to get them to create a sub page where you could sponsor a student to buy Cheesy Mac cups for the student who's starving college kids. And they were all it doesn't really work that way. Can't really do that. And what I realized is we were basically asking Facebook to make an app before apps existed. Right. That's how and then we eventually made that. And when I was at Crispin, eventually we worked with Twitter to create a custom API so that all the Best Buy Blue shirts could tweet advice in tech form, called Twelp Force. But we had to work with Twitter to build new stuff. Right. So that was, that was just sort of an example of the fun digital. Long story short, I also created something called Ad Mashup. This was a spinoff of Advertising for Peanuts, but I asked people to take a print ad and then swap out the logo with a different logo to see how it changed the meaning of the ad. It was a really fun exercise. And I started getting all these submissions. And next thing I know, Ad Age reaches out to me. They did this thing called the Book of Tens, where there was the top 10 of everything of the year. And they said, we want your top 10 ad mashups. And again, here I am, this kid, I'm a junior level, creative in Chicago. And now I've got something in Ad Age. So when I go to interview at Crispin Porter Bogusky eventually, I was I don't even deserve to be here. I haven't done that much good stuff. I have 4 things in my book. I'm just these are the best 4 things. But one of the things after the creative was Advertising for Peanuts and Ad Mashup that got into Ad Age. And I remember one of the creative directors, Rob Strasberg, he was the coolest thing you did here is you made yourself famous. This ad mashup thing is awesome. And so, have I always been, a curious and talented, smart enough, creative, sure. But it was amazing to see how that blog and me kind of doing my own thing, as you can relate, that opened the doors to a lot of stuff.
Dude, I love that. I freaking love that. But it seems like you just love this stuff and you developed taste early on. It started with you knowing early on that you wanted to break into advertising.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people the first step
Mm-hmm.
to get a job in this industry is to nerd up and know yourself, which
Yes.
means know which role you want to break into. And then
Yes.
next phase of that is know where you want to work. Who do you want to work with?
Absolutely.
That's the hardest part. You found that out. At least you identified at 16, you want to be in advertising. For me, I was a senior in high school because of Mad Men. So, and then I had the North Star of being in account management, and I worked my way to break into account management. So it's like starting early, but then you, as on the creative side, you started developing your taste, like with the blog, and you started consuming so much more, and you read all the books, because it's not enough just to know advertising. It's actually have like your POV on it and why, and just that exposure. You did all of that because you probably freaking love this stuff. And that's what will separate people.
Absolutely. And you just, you become a student because now you know every single agency, you start to know the names, and again, you start to love it and care. And, the people who win are the people who care the most, And so if you don't care, if you're just seeing like, oh, this could be good, it's creative and it maybe makes pretty good money. It's like, that's not gonna get you up in the morning. There's that funny kind of story about Wayne Gretzky, like, he figured out how he could like basically make a goal from like behind the net, like, and it was just like, that's someone who's obsessively thinking about this thing that they love. And that's where the innovation comes. Cause they're just like, what if it's this? What if it's this? And, and I think everybody should be looking for that thing, because that's the thing that will drive you, and I think everybody can always, I'd also just say you can take the job you currently have and start pushing it in that direction, to take your nerdy interest and push in there until it's no longer a good outlet for it, and then pop out. But and I'd say, the skill now, advertising is a very strange, what a weird world or place this is, from agencies to in-house to startups to production companies to influence. It's like what you want to be good at is making things, and it's so easy to make things now. And so I see people all the time like who show me books or whatever, and I'm just like, what have you made? Like, have you made anything? Like, because that's going to give me an insight too, as to like you asked me, like, what's your hobbies? What's your weird stuff? It's like that's going to show you the passion, and that's going to show you where you're pointed. Like sometimes with young creatives, I'll say, I don't really need to see your work. Show me all the stuff you love. Show me the stuff that inspires you. Because now I'm going to understand what kind of work you're wanting to make, and whether you're a good fit for this place or how you can make more stuff like that. But it starts, like you said, it starts with your taste. Like, know what you love and be in love with it. Then start moving towards making stuff that you love. And I think Ira Glass talks a lot about how it's very hard to get from I have taste to I can make the stuff, but you won't get there if you don't have taste. And I think that was a great point to make about that. And it's something you can do every day. You can just be aware of what do you like, what do you love, and I'll just say, what you love is not. You don't have to judge other shit. Don't spend time on things. This is bad. This is no. Just focus on what you like, and it'll take you far.
Yeah. If I were to break in and let's say I was a passionate copywriter and I didn't have the art direction skills, I don't know, I would call it out and be like, this is like, my taste, this is what I want it to look like. But right now, like just the headlines, the writing this is where it's at. Like, that's really good. If there's a disconnect, try to solve that gap by learning those skills the best you can, or finding somebody else to partner up with. But it's that recognition of like, you have that vision, what it should look like, and just identifying that and trying to bridge that gap as best as possible. And
I was
ahead.
just going to say that and then identify the place that's consistently making the thing you want to do.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky because it was like, in college, I was like, whatever this Crispin Porter place is, whatever this, Alex Bogusky guy is, like, that's it. And so I had to get there to see what was going on. And it's harder, I'll say, to find those places now. But if you're a real student and you do the rabbit holing of like, I like that movie. Who was the director of that? Who was the DP? Or I liked that, this product. Who's there's people behind everything that you love that are interesting, creative, and there's a culture. And guess what? Most of those people will have coffee with you or talk to you for 30 minutes because people like to share with other people who are really hungry and we like to share what we've learned.
Absolutely. When you worked with Alex, is there a fun story that you like to share? Maybe you've never told before about whether it's funny or a good lesson, like in the trenches there. I know it was a creative culture and creativity was first and foremost, it was centered around the creatives there. So there's got to be something you could share with us about working in that office.
Oh yeah. So much. So for one, one thing I learned that was probably the best thing at Crispin was like, you did not get to be precious about your work ever at all. You had to become an idea machine that was just trained to be able to come up with more and more and more. And you didn't get to present your work. You just emailed it in and then you kept going and then they tell you what to work on. And, now is this like the best, healthiest culture? There's things we've learned, right? But what it did is it did a couple things. It taught me that I can always come up with more ideas. And that relieved me of the fear of holding on to it. It's like, oh no, the client didn't like that one. Oh no, it was just like, whatever. There's got to be better ones. Let's keep going. And so one of the rules I have at Humanaut is like, you can't have a favorite idea. Mm-hmm. And when we present to client, we do not have a favorite. Clients always ask me right after I present, oh, what's y'all's favorite? I was like, everybody looks around at me because that's like, no, all of these need to be something we are pumped to make. Mm-hmm. And if you have a favorite, it means you're putting more love into that one. And you're kind of just like, yeah, and then we got these to show. And so, all that to say is I think creatives are often scared that they can't come up with a better idea. And so they don't take criticism well. They're precious, they're defensive. And if you just know, so I always tell my team, I'm like, the clients always make the work better. Now that sounds like a little bit of sacrilege, but why do I say that? It's not because they have the best feedback. It's because they're saying, hey, I think it could be better. And guess what? I think it can be better too. If you give us a little more time, give me another week or two, I guarantee it's going to be better. And guess what? Normally, either we figure out what wasn't working, because I think our clients are great feelers. They're feeling correctly. There's something that's not working here. Assuming they're not playing politics, right? And then we'll either fix it or we'll come up with something that I'm like, that was so much better. And I've done that so many times. The only last thing I'll tell you about Crispin that I learned was that I just learned that my ideas weren't always good. And I'd go and make something and then it wasn't funny when we got to the edit. And that taught me that I need to be really flexible and open to have a lot of options to work with. I need to try many different things. I can't assume I'm right because I got stuck many times. And it was like, that was so funny on paper. It's just not good. And so I stay, to this day, very open in our creative process, even to when we're shooting. We are shooting the joke that's scripted and then 20 other jokes so that when we get to the edit, we can actually figure out what's good. And also, even in the edit, you can rewrite it if you need to. The point is you should be able to at any point go, uh-oh, this isn't good.
Yeah.
And have backup options and ways to make it good. And so there's a lot of magical stuff that I experienced there that then we have. At the end of the day, I've loved everything we've shipped. because we had the ability to save it. We had the ability to make it good, and we didn't assume we were right and hold on to that so tight. And so I think if creatives if you really want to be creative, it means you're open, you're receptive to synchronistic, surprising, things that can happen, and that you're going to change it the second your taste goes, uh-oh, you'll have an actor come in, and guess what? It doesn't feel good the way they're reading it. You can struggle that whole day and try to get that actor to align to what you scripted, or you go, what if we just change the vibe of it? And it's different now because this is a different person. Embrace it. Say, what would you say? How would you do it? And then create a different character. And now it's better than what you scripted. And how? Because you're open to the universe, you're open to the magic of what is happening. And I think creativity is a magical thing. And if you're using your real rigid, logical mind to make sure your idea so that you're seen as this genius person, no one's going to want to work with you because you're rigid and you're scared, and also the work's going to suck. It's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse instead of better and better and better and better and better.
I love it. David, how can people reach out to you if they want to work with you or they want to work for you? Ask you any questions? What's the best way?
There's my right-hand man who is our chief creative officer, who has really architected all of the great processes and teams and, culture. We have a human, his name's Dan Jacobs. You can email him at dan@humanaut.is. He might, kick me a little bit for sharing that, but he told me we need good people. And yes, I just say to any creative listening, it's, if you want to make things, for one, and then two, if you want to make sure you're doing it with a clean conscience, knowing that like the thing you're working on, the world actually needs, we're looking for those people. And I'm going to make sure you really care. I'm going to make sure the work is really good. And there's no bullshit. So that'd be cool.
Love it. Well, David, wonderful job. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Excited to keep on following along. Been a fan for a couple of years now, so I'll keep on rocking with you guys.
Yeah, man. Dude, this was so fun. Thanks for letting me pull out some of these deep cut stories that I forgot about. So
it's good. All right. Take care,
also, sir. I'll just say you're crushing it. Thank you, man. Good job following your passion. What you've built is awesome, and the world is a better place for it. So really, really cool. And keep rocking, man.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you.
Awesome. All right. Have fun, everybody. Enjoy. You can't be creative if you're not having fun. Later. Right.